Headed into the race now. It looks like we've got Nicholas Sciaberri in pole position. We've got Victor Durantes in second place, filling out the first row. Oscar Araco and Mark Ray make up the second row here, followed by Michael Coates and Brian Schmalz, I want to say. And then next row is Ricardo Guzman and Oliver Hartley, and then Afonso Gonzalo, or what just happened? It looks like it just tried to reorder itself. Pardon me. Next row is Oliver Hartley and Tom Giannini, and then we have a bunch of folks who didn't qualify, so will be dropped in there pretty much wherever. But that kind of makes it exciting. It looks like we've got 19 cars on the grid, and many of them did not qualify. And what's interesting about that is many of the ones who did not qualify they have A-class licenses. There's a couple Bs and one D down here. No, two Ds actually. And we're just going to have to see, are they going to be able to charge through the field? One assumes. So let's keep an eye on Nicholas, if they're going to show up in the race for us. Yep, Nicholas. Let's take a look at you from the blimp, as the cars are slowly filling out the grid. It looks like we're going to have a standing start here. Once we get all the cars on the grid, we should be good. Now, this is Skip Barber, and I love Skip Barber. Every Skip Barber race I've seen so far is good, which means I've jinxed myself, and this one's going to be bad. But but hopefully it'll be close, and it'll yield some really nice, close racing. So let's see what we get from TV3 as we are watching the menswear cam from Men's Warehouse? I have no idea. Brian Schmalz, Nicholas Sciaberri and Victor Durantes there on the front row. It looks like everybody's pretty much ready. We've got somebody who's missing back there in row 7. Hopefully they show up soon. By the way, this gives me no warning on when they start, so I'm just as surprised as anybody. Probably more surprised because I don't see the red lights drawn down. But yeah, 13 laps here at Zandvoort. If that's indeed how you say it, it probably is not. As we wait for the last racer to get out onto the field. I am very unfamiliar with this course. I like the looks of it. I've liked it on Motorsports Manager. Oh, we're getting ready to go. Are we ready for the off? Are we blowing up our engine just for fun? Green, green, green. And Nicholas is not started. You know, that's kind of an interesting shot. Let's see if anybody hits him. Yep. The Coke car, which had no luck before this race started, has run into the pole sitter. So let's go back to the front of the field. That is a very unfortunate beginning for Nicholas Sciaberri, and also for Todd Presser, it looks like, who I believe is the one in the Coke car who just... I was watching them during qualifying, and they had a really good lap going and kind of spun out on turn 15. It looks like we might have had some more... Anybody else back here? Yep, we've had a couple of small wrecks. Let's see what happened here. It looks like somebody just lost it and then collected a few other folks. And it's always somebody further down. Unfortunately, a couple of spins and somebody tried to re-enter the track. Not quite right back there. It's just the nature of this kind of racing, you know? You get a lot of stuff like this. And that is just fine, because that is how we like it. Here we have Brian Schmalz, who is racing for 15th place. Back to the front, Victor Durantes has got the lead pretty firmly in hand at the moment, though it looks like behind him we've got a really close race going between Michael Coates and Oscar Araco. Oscar Araco looks like, are they making the move? Have they got the pass? This is some interesting stuff. Let's see if we can get a good view of this from inside of the car. It looks like Michael Coates has got 0.2 seconds up on Oscar Araco, who is hot on his heels, trying to make a move. This is the important place. You come out of those turns, see if you can carry the correct amount of momentum, and it does look like he is catching up just a little bit on Michael Coates here, trying to make some momentum through these turns. Nothing too major happening right now, but looking pretty good so far as we try and get a little bit more closer in on it. And we're finishing up lap 1 now, so we've already had a couple of pretty big wrecks, knocked a lot of people into the pits, and they're about to go a lap down, most of them. Pretty unfortunate for our pole sitter, who for some reason didn't leave when it was time to leave, and it looks like Oscar got a little bit too quick into that into that corner right there and took that one a little bit wide. He's fallen a position. So what have we got here in terms of competition? We've got a few that are pretty close. I think Oscar here is going to be very keen to get back up past Ricardo Guzman at this point. Whether or not they can do it, of course, is going to be its own little question. But down the field a little bit, we have got Pablo Lopez Tunkel, I believe, Tunkley, and they are trying to make up some space on Gary Balchin II, and it doesn't look like that gap's closing up too much. Up the fight for 6th, we've got Tom Glanny following Alfonso Gonzalo, and again, not a lot closing up there. In fact, that gap just grew to about 1.5 seconds. So folks kind of spreading out a little bit. We're going to have to see where the gathering starts to happen. For me, this track is a little bit of a mystery, so I'm not quite sure where the moments are going to come in this race where they start to realize groupings, because that's often the thing you'll see in Skip Barber. There are places on the track where they bunch up quite a bit. Let's see. Right now we have got, though, this little grouping right here is kind of one of the closer ones out there, as Guzman is chasing Coates and Araco is chasing Guzman. This one right here. And, the gap is not exactly shrinking, but it's not exactly growing. As we head down towards, what is this? Looks like turns 9 and 10, perhaps. I'm very unfamiliar with this course. I apologize if I'm super incorrect. I try not to be, but it happens. So we go to Blimp View, kind of take a look at Michael Coates. Ooh, it looks like Oscar Araco, though, is coming up pretty close behind. Are we going to miss? Ooh, coming down. Maybe. No, not quite. Not quite. Losing a little bit of time there. Looks like Victor Durantes has set the lap record, which is kind of expected for this race. Kind of expected because they're leading the race. And that's usually how that goes. All the same, Oscar Araco here is trying to make something in a play for 3rd place. They have not really lost a lot of space here, and they're probably just going to keep on pushing on that. So what have we got going further down the order? It looks like Tunkley is still on the tail of Gary Balchin II, who seems to be making some mistakes here and there. Let's see if we go ahead and do a little ride-along here. That would not be the correct ride-along. There we go. We've got Pablo behind Gary here. Are they making up space? It really looks like they are. That looks like it's closing. This is one of those things with these races, is you'll have people, since the skill level varies from driver to driver quite a bit, you'll have drivers that are way better at one part of the track than another. So you might see a pass, or you might see them get really close in one part of the track and then kind of fall back in another. Ooh! Looks like Gary made a small mistake there. Let's see if he can capitalize on this. As he comes trying to edge his way through the inside. Can he make it work? Oh, he's almost got the momentum, but it doesn't look like it's quite going to stick at this particular point in time. That is some close stuff, though. We're coming down into the turn here. It looks like, Gary looks like he is definitely taking a more aggressive line, but I think that's causing him to slide wide just a little bit as Pablo takes advantage and gets right back up on his gearbox again. Headed down into one of the turns. I'm such a bad race announcer. That's 9, I believe, into 10. I believe. It doesn't matter. The point is that Pablo is still on Gary's tail. That was actually 14 into 15. I was totally wrong on that. At least I know what the start-finish line looks like. I mean, come on, people. Let's see if Pablo can catch him down the straight here as we do a quick ride-along. We're heading into the braking zone. Can he make this stick? It looks like Gary's giving him space. If he can make it convert, it's going to be, but no, it looks like not. It looks like Gary has made that outside line work for them, and as they've been fighting, Oliver Hartley has caught up now and is starting to make a bit of a play for 10th place, so we'll have to see how that goes as well, as Pablo finds himself in the thick of it. Let me tell you. It looks like going up a little bit, though. Chris Regium is right up on Ricardo Guzman. This is the fight for 3rd place. And that is a gap that was really quite small just a second ago and has increased just a little bit. Let's see what we're looking at. We've got Chris right towards Oscar's tail. We're looking at about anywhere from a half second to a second gap. So the question is, how hard is Chris pushing him? I don't know the answer to that question. Could be really hard. It's one of those things that you end up seeing in racing quite a bit, where you might not be able to pass the person on speed alone, but if you make them feel like they need to go faster, they might make a mistake, which is, I think we might, maybe, I'm not sure if Oscar made a mistake there or not. Pardon me, if Ricardo made a mistake there or not. Looks like Chris did pass Oscar just a little bit earlier in this lap. I feel bad for having missed that. And Chris is really pushing it, but is also making some really good time, and he's actually Class 2 licensed, so this is really quite impressive. As we head down the front straight, let's see if he can make it work going towards turn 1, past the stop finish line. We have got 3 of them bunched up here, and let's see what happens. Oscar, Chris, and Ricardo going through turn 1. Looks like everybody's kind of maintaining their positions right now. Let's see how Oliver Hartley's doing with Gary again. We've got this race back here. Oh, there we go. Oliver makes that one work. Can he make it stick? I do believe so. Is that Tom that got by? No, that is Oliver. It's definitely Oliver. Oliver has gotten ahead of Gary, and Pablo looks like he's fallen back a little bit. I think Oliver worked through both of them. Oh, but we're not quite done here. Is Gary comes back and is like, I'm not going to let you get away that easy. Trying to get up into his gearbox. See if he can make him maybe sweat a little bit and make a mistake. Always interesting to see. You get onto the back part of the track, maybe you're not faster even though you were on the front part of the track. So we're heading back here into what looks to be 7-8. This is 8. So diving in. Gotten a little bit of space here for Gary. But let's see how it goes. Looks like he's closing a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a pass, though. Not quite yet, but this is still a close race to watch. So that is really exciting. I'm hoping that Gary can make up that space here again. Oh, are we seeing a pass on the inside now? Is that what we're going for here? Can we get a slightly better camera angle on this? Just all over him. Gary is all over there. Can he get an opening and then make it stick, because he already gave up the position on the front straight, so it kind of makes you wonder if he was even able to get a hold of it, would he be able to hold on to it? And as we're talking about that, let's go back to Chris, who is chasing down Ricardo Guzman. Looks like... Ooh, there we go. Nice. Anyway, this is nice close racing, and that's what I like to see, even when I completely lose track of what's going on. Oh, it's been a long day today, folks. It looks like Chris, though, has not had, quite as much mental buffoonery as I have, and he's still pushing pretty hard here. Can he get past Ricardo Guzman is the real question, and can Oscar get past Chris is the other big question that I'm kind of running into here. As we are 6 out of 13 laps, by the way. We're only halfway there. Oh, am I missing the pass just by going back over there? Oi! Chris is back in front of Ricardo again. I feel like they're trading spaces a little bit. It looks like, by the way, Victor Durantes has got a pretty decent lead here, but they're still being chased pretty closely by Michael Coates, so we've actually got a race for the lead as well. So we've got a pack of 2 here on the lead. We've got a pack of 4 here on third. That seems to be trying to swap back and forth a lot, as we've got Ricardo trying to come up behind Chris here again. Can they make that work, though? It looks like that gap's kind of maintaining this side of the circuit. Oh, back there, what's Javier up to? Javier, are you going to make that stick back there? Javier is trying to get up underneath Ricardo Guzman as best he can. Not able to quite find the space, but maybe now. He's on the inside. And yep, he makes that one stick. Javier gets ahead of Ricardo Guzman and is now on the tail of Chris Regium, fighting for third place in the stead of Ricardo Guzman, who has lost that. So back to the front, Durantes and Coates are heading through turn 1, it looks like. And I think Coates is really close up that gap. It looks like, yeah, they were up to about 0.7 the last time that I looked, but it looks like Coates has gotten it all the way down to about a third of a second, though now it's expanding out a little bit again to about half of a second. So I think it's going to be another battle where what really matters is where on the track they are, as to who has more speed. Though Coates did set the race record on that last lap, so he's clearly charging hard here. But let's go back to Chris, who is still holding off Javier, who is holding off Oscar, and Ricardo's fallen all the way back to 6th, unfortunately. A couple of costly mistakes back there. Not sure if they've got maybe a little bit of damage to their aero. We can actually take a really quick look at the front of them and see if there's anything wrong with the car. It doesn't look like there is. I guess they just made a couple of mistakes, unfortunately. So as we go back to that battle for 3rd at the front there, oh, it looks like the battle for 4th suddenly became interesting. Javier went a little bit wide on that last turn, and it looks like Oscar Araco is not going to be able to take advantage of that. In the meantime, Coates is like 0.2 seconds off of the tail of Victor Durantes, which means we need to really get in here and see if he can close that gap down. Oh, well, it was closer, but it has expanded back out to about a half of a second. About a half of a second. As something goes wrong. Oh, that is turn 15, headed down the front straight again. We are headed into lap 8 at this point. And it looks like he's catching him down the straight, but not quickly enough that he can really contemplate a pass at this point. And really, you don't want to risk 2nd place. You want to make sure that you've got that well in hand before you do anything. So let's go back to 3rd place. We have got Chris here. Ooh, and it looks like Javier's going to make that pass down the inside. Can he make it stick? Yes, he can. Yes, he can. That's looking pretty good for Javier, but they're still side by side, and the question is, will Chris be able to get... Oh, contact, and Chris is not, pardon me, and Javier is not having a good time. That did not go well. I'm not sure who's at fault on that one. Let's do a really quick follow view to see if we can have an opinion on this. Nope, that's rear chase, Jay, you silly. And that is not the correct way to look at that. It looks to me like... I'm kind of going to have to say that I think that Chris should have given... I believe that's Chris, should have given just a bit more space there, in my opinion. But at the same time, like, it's hard... I mean, he was in the middle of the track, but I don't think he quite left enough space. That's just my opinion. I am not a steward. I am not in charge. But I kind of feel like he should have ceded the outside line to him. Just my opinion. But in the meantime, Chris has 3rd place. So, and poor Javier is in the pits and probably out of the race at this point. And Oscar, though, is not giving up anything at this point. It looks like he definitely is going to, avenge Javier, because what else would you do? Oh, and it looks like while I was busy watching that, oh, we're finally getting that pass down the front straight, neck and neck. Can Michael make it stick? I really think that he probably can, because he's been quicker this entire time, and I don't think Victor's really have a mind to crash them both out of the race. So your new leader now, Michael Coates, taking the spot from Victor Durantes. And back down the list, Chris has maintained his lead over Javier, who is unfortunately in the pits, and over Oscar as well. So that is 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th for you. Down the list a little bit, we have Oliver Hartley making a pass on Gary Balkan, if he can. Oh, looks like he lost a little bit of grip under braking there. Nice Google car, by the way. I do like that paint scheme quite a lot, but not the most successful pass into turn 1, unfortunately, but it's better than crashing. It's better than crashing, so take that home, Take that. But yeah, Victor looks like he's losing a little bit of ground to Michael Coates. Not sure if that's going to change at any point. Hopefully so. Oscar is right on the tail of Chris. Oscar wants to make this work. Oscar can taste it. Oscar's trying to get around the crankcase. Come on, Oscar, you can do it. Let's see if he can pass. He is right there. I believe this is heading to turn... I want to say that was... This is 9. Oh! Looks like Chris made a small mistake there, and that Oscar is going to take advantage by pulling into the inside of this turn. Can he make it stick is the question that we've had to ask repeatedly today, because they have changed positions at 3rd place several times at this point. And can they keep it clean? Keep it clean is unfortunately another question we have to ask ourselves, as Chris is immediately on Oscar's crankcase and is trying to make that work. locking up a bit under heavy braking, but still holding quite a bit of speed. Whew, that's a bit of a tight grouping right there. It looks like towards the front we've still got tight racing as well. Right up his crankcase. Let's see if he can make a pass down the front straight again as we're swapping places again. Victor moving into the lead at this point. Can he hold it through the turn? This seems to have been a place where most people can make this maneuver, and that seems to have worked just fine. In the meantime, it looks like Oscar has taken and then lost that position to Chris all in one turn, so not quite holding on to it, staying out of contact, which is wise. It looks like they're coming up on some lapped traffic. That'd be Todd Presser there in 13th place, who is right ahead of Chris. So hopefully they can easily get past the lap traffic at this point. Lap traffic can be a real complication when you've got a tight race going. So we will have to see what ends up happening with that. Plus, Todd does not look like they are slow. So whether or not you can even pass the lapped traffic is probably a legitimate question right now. Remember, we had some wrecks high up in the order in the first lap, so there's some quick racers that are a lap down. At any rate, Oscar looks like he is trying to make a move on Chris here, and we'll just have to see if that holds out. In the meantime, Michael Coates is still following Victor Durantes around, probably trying to figure out, how do I make sure that I make that pass on the last straight on the last lap? Because that's how you have to time that. It looks like they've been swapping back and forth when they get through that last turn. If you're going to always make that pass on the last straight, then clearly you want to be in second place at the beginning of that straight, not in first. So maybe you let this go for a couple laps? I don't really know. Strategy, folks. You got to think it through. Here we head onto the front straight again. Will Michael Coates try and take the lead back from Victor Durantes? It doesn't look like he's going to make that effort, so let's go take a look at Chris and Oscar. Looks like he's tucked in behind there. Will Chris try and get this place back from Oscar again? This has been a very tightly contested race that has already involved some amount of violence, if I'm honest, though it didn't look like it was necessarily intentional, just maybe should have given a little bit more space. It looks like Chris has gotten ahead of Oscar again. That is at the end of the straight, though. That is after the start-finish line, so if you do that on the last lap, it's not really going to help you at all. Needs to stay ahead until the start-finish line to make that really worth his time. In the meantime, let's take a look back down the field a little bit. We've got a few races that are somewhat close. Ricardo Guzman trying to keep up with Tom Giannini. Well, about half of a second back, but it looks like Tom perhaps is making some mistakes here, and maybe we'll see a switch there. It's hard to really know. Going down the order a little bit more, not a lot of things are super close. Oliver Hartley, who was competing a bit further up the way before, is still trying to hold on to Gary, but I think that they seem to be content right there for this moment in time. We'll have to see if anything changes about that in the future. Victor Durantes is right on the tail of Michael Coates at this point. Let's see what's going to happen here as we're heading down towards... Oof. Is he getting on the outside of this one? Is he going to try and make that stick? No. He realizes that's probably not a good idea and gets back onto the racing line so that he can make the maneuvers through 12 and 13 without having any problems. And as we go back down the order, it looks like Chris and Oscar are still having a fight. As we are on lap 11, by the way. This is the... third to last lap. Oh, contact again. Holy cow. This race for third place has been just basically a war of attrition. That's another one where it really looks to me, I hate to say, that the person who is... that's a bump. I really feel like that was a bump. It really looks to me like Oscar should have given just a bit more space on that particular maneuver. Let's try and get that from one more angle real quick to see if we can get a better look, and then we will get back to the racing action. But, I mean, I understand that, it looked like the gentleman in front slowed down a bit, but all the same, like, you gotta get on the brakes there and not plow right into the person in front of you. So... third place. That has been a very coldly fought fight so far. Anyway, we are on lap 12, and it looks like Michael Coates is still in second place, or Yeah, wow. They're still really close to each other, though. That is about 0.15 seconds back there. They are fighting it out. This is definitely going to be a fight right to the finish. The question is, will third place, Oscar Araco, actually end up in first because these two crash into each other, and that's just the ending that you get. You never know. This is Skip Barber, folks. I might just be a Skip Barber announcer. This might be the only series I follow. Every time I put one of these races on, something interesting happens. Right now we have Michael Coates, 0.13 seconds back on Victor Durantes as they head down through turns 12 and 13. They're headed towards the end of the penultimate lap. And we have no idea who's going to win. We really just don't know. Up here in third place, it looks like Oscar has a pretty good grip on third. I don't think Tom's really challenging on that, though I will keep you posted if it changes. Ricardo Guzman following up pretty closely behind Alfonso for fifth place, and down the order, most folks are kind of spread out a little bit, so we will watch the race for first. As Michael Coates looks like they have slotted into second place here. And oh, are we going to see a pass here? Oh, trying to make it work on the outside line. Nothing doing as Michael Coates is trying to make Victor Durantes feel the pressure. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a dirty race. That would be unfortunate as they have fought very cleanly this entire time as opposed to, third place. And it'd just be a shame. So far they've been very careful about preserving their cars, but they've been very aggressive, and this is their last lap. Can they make it work? Here comes Michael Coates right down on Victor Durantes, heading into turn 8. Long, fast right-hander who's going to hold the speed and come down into 9 and be able to make this work. It looks like Coates has got a good angle on this, but there's no space to work with. We're getting into the last half of the lap, folks. This is the last half of the lap. Last lap of the race. His Coates tries to work to the outside to see if there's any way he can make this find any space. Or can he force an error out of Victor Durantes? They've swapped at least 4 times at this point. And they're headed down to the last couple of turns here. I believe this is 12 headed into 13, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4 turns left. Oh, and that's the end of it for Michael Coates. A little bit too aggressive. A little bit too aggressive, and he lost it. But, again, I can't stress this enough. He lost it cleanly. It's unfortunate, as Victor Durantes is now headed to victory. Congratulations, Victor. That was a well-fought race, well-deserved. And unfortunately, Michael Coates is going to come in second, but again, very well-fought race. Well-deserved second. I think could have just as easily been first place for Michael Coates here as he finishes second place in the race. Third place, we need to have a talk, third place, you and me. We need to have a conversation. I don't remember if it was Oscar in particular who was the problem on all of them. I don't think it was. It feels like whoever was in third or fourth was not racing as cleanly as possibly they could. But yeah, Oscar did not hit his brakes hard enough and kind of hit somebody's crankcase and kind of pushed them out of third. So, what are you going to do? I think that they'd probably claim that they got brake checked, because that does happen. People hit their brakes too hard and you just don't have time to react. It's a very close race. Third place was a very closely contested battle. I would totally understand if he made that excuse. At the same time, you got to watch the person in front of you and not run into them and push them out of the line and then serendipitously take third place. Still, your finishers are, in first place, Victor Durantes, a deserved victory, an amazing victory. Second, Michael Coates, really good in second place. Unfortunate that you spilled on turn 14 right towards the end, but it was a hard-fought race. Amazing stuff. Oscar Araco, good race. There was one turn that I have some questions about, but still, third place was deserved. You had the pace for it, clearly. Fourth place is going to Tom Giannini. Fifth is Alfonso Gonzalo. Sixth, Ricardo Guzman. Seventh is Chris Regium. Eighth is Gary Balkan. Ninth, Oliver Hartley. And 10th, Pablo Lopez Tonkley. I apologize for anybody's names that I may have butchered. Great race here at Zandvoort. Great race here with Skip Barber 2000s. Love this series. Always an interesting race. And that's pretty much all that I've got for you. Hopefully you enjoyed the race.